so we are proud to present to you the world's perfect theatre, the Odeon Theatre, Leicester Square, London.
You know, I've looked at quite a few cinemas in this series. Usually they were built before the First World War, when I suppose film was the new thing, rather like, I don't know, mobile phones or flared trousers today. But now we're in London. London, the nation's capital. London, home to 1,000 cinemas. But this is the one that some people call the Cathedral. Sure, it has films, but it has film stars. It has the royal family. It's got its own organ. This is the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The Odeon brand itself was established by a gentleman called Oscar Deutsch back in the beginning of the 1930s.
So obviously that they were springing up throughout the golden age of film in the 30s, you know, talkies and colour and everything was here. But when did somebody, perhaps Oscar Deutsch, decide Leicester Square was the place to have a big Odeon?
Yeah, Odeon Leicester Square was opened in 1937. The West End of London has always been a home of cinema. Leicester Square continues to be so, to be honest with you. But this building is just so magnificent, so beautiful. In Hollywood, it's known as the Cathedral, which is a wonderful phrase to describe any cinema.
But you talk, Ross, about attracting people in. Well, it must work because you attract the royal family in, and you have done for many, many years. Do you have a sort of set checklist, a kind of thing that's got to be ticked off? You know, obviously security. Well, do you have a red carpet?
We do have a blue carpet, an Odeon blue carpet, which goes out into Leicester Square itself. Yes, I mean, as you can imagine, we've hosted so many premieres over the years that we really do know exactly what to do and when, and things run by clockwork, as you can imagine.
But do you think, on behalf of Oscar or whoever his committee were, that it was a conscious decision to make this place like, well, the biggest and the best? Was it built with that aim in mind?
I'm sure it was. He was an ambitious man, and I'm sure he wanted a cinema of which everybody could be proud, which is true today as well, of course. We've just spent about £3.5 million refurbishing this fantastic cinema to make it a beautiful place to see films, to make it exciting, because cinema should be about having a bit of fun, and that's what this cinema is.
24, 20... This is it. The Queen's seat.
I came here first of all as an organist. I came in 1992 originally, and then 1993 I played throughout the Disney shows. We had a live stage show plus the organ before Aladdin for 6 weeks, and we did the same with Lion King, and then ultimately with Pocahontas.
Is this still the original organ then that came with the cinema?
Yes, it's the original organ as designed to go with the decor of the cinema. You'll notice that the lovely scrolls on the side match the scrolls on the walls.
So it was purpose-built?
Purpose-built, purpose-designed, 5 keyboards. There wasn't another cinema organ in the country that had 5 manuals.
I noticed when I heard you playing just now, you played a sort of signature tune, not something I recognised though. What was it?
It's called Around the Corner at the Odeon, or Odeon, as they said, 1930 whatever, and it was written by Alfred Richards as his signature tune at the Odeon Western-super-Mare. And the words are quite interesting as well.
Well, give us the words.
If I can remember this, I like pictures, you like pictures, what a great world it's going to be. We can step out in the half-light and pretend Garbo's you and Clark Gable is me. Make a date, dear, don't be late, dear, for we know where the best show is on. So let's step out tonight where the stars are shining bright around the corner at the Odeon. Around the corner at the Odeon.
It's all right having a mighty organ, 5 keyboards, but the real powerhouse is the projection room. And for a cinema like this, size does matter. So this is where the magic pictures come
yes.
from?
3 big machines sitting here.
Oh, that's Notting Hill going
That's
out
right,
now, is
yeah,
it?
yeah. And we're entering.
So, always, is it usual to have 3 big projectors? I'm a bit of a stranger.
Not normally, John. We tend to normally go with 1 in any projection room, or 2 if we're doing changeovers, but very few projection rooms have that these days.
Yeah, look, I don't know much about all this technology and so on, but what do you think you'd say might have changed from when it all began in 1937?
I think in terms of sound quality in our auditoriums now, the sound quality is far higher than it ever was. Obviously, it was mono in those days when there was sound. Now we've got digital sound, we've got stereo sound, we have surround speakers engulfing the customer.
So is this the sound here, presumably?
That's right, yes. There's 4 racks there controlling the routing of signals and sound into our speakers in the auditorium.
It's all a bit Heath Robinson, isn't it? I mean, there are big wheels turning and there's the film going through that's being shown now.
The film itself hasn't changed over the years. It's still 35mm wide. It's still run 24 frames per second in the same way. It's still images being shown on the screen.
So it's still the basic principle, only they've got it
Principles
better.
haven't changed over the years at all. Projector quality is better these days. The quality and the rock-steady image that we see on the screen is far better than it used to be in the old days of the flicks. But, as I say, picture quality stays the same as it always has done.
Well, I'm talking now to Jack Gregory, who first came to work here in 1939 and worked here for, well, best part of 40 years. But you were here as what? I mean, what kind of things did you have to do?
Well, I was my official title was Chief Engineer and Stage Manager. And then I was in charge of the whole of the maintenance, painting, heating, ventilating, electrical, seating. I had a staff of 9. Now they've got nobody.
Well, now standing beside me here is Jack Gregory, who is the cinema's chief engineer, and I understand that you've been the chief engineer here for 16 years, is that right? Well, now, this came from the big fog of last January. And how did you collect this, Jack?
From this compartment here. It's where we wash the air before it enters the cinema. And the sludge was collected from the tank at the bottom.
Oh, well, that's quite a thought, coming to the cinema to get fresh air.
I must say the Odeon Leicester Square is different to most of the other cinemas I've seen in this series, because although they can go back over, I don't know, the start of talkies and a history of the film, in here you've seen film stars.
That's right.
Can you think, not so much of the first film you ever saw, but the first film stars you actually saw for a premiere, because that'd be a regular event here?
You name.
I'm going to say I'll not
Can
name
you
it.
name some of them, and I'll tell you whether I've.
Well, I'm thinking of, let's think of some of the American stars, like, I don't know, Bing Crosby.
Bing Crosby, yes.
Well, if you've seen Bing Crosby, I suppose you must have seen Bob Hope in those days.
Bob Hope, I've got a signed photograph of Jack, my first stage manager in England, from Bob Hope.
Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, Elizabeth Taylor, I've met her, often met her. Kissed her several times.
You kissed Elizabeth Taylor?
Yes. She's kissed me, rather.
Would that be in her young days, in the early National Velvet?
It's when she first came out, there was.
Because she was very much the British
yeah.
film star for a while.
I mean, as I say, you mention any big film star and I've met them.
Now, among this maze of machinery and pipelines, I was beginning to forget I was in a cinema at all, until Jack Gregory took me back onto more familiar ground. On the way up to this stage, we looked in on the organ chamber, a fantastic cabin of 1,500 organ pipes of every shape and size.
Who do you think is the biggest overall star that you've ever worked with?
Frank Sinatra comes to my memory.
Did he come here for a film, or did you see him sing?
No, he came in for a midnight concert in aid of some charity, and I had to meet him at the side door on the side of the stage, and he came in, did his show, went out, and said, "Thanks very much," and I op it. But just before the show, I was asked to supply a stool for him to sit on. So I hadn't got a stool. So
Do you mean one of those big stools that he'd perch on to sit on stage?
Yeah. So I went into the little local pub round the corner, which I knew, and borrowed a stool from him, because the door out in the pub, my office was there.
So you're saying there's a small pub round the corner where For a while, it could have been said Frank Sinatra sat on that bar stool.
I don't know, but they did put a little brass tag on it. This store was underneath.
Well, your side of things is running as smoothly as ever. And thank you, Jack, for letting us have a look around. You're welcome.
The Odeon, Leicester Square, London. Probably the best-known venue for films in the whole of the country. It's not surprising that some people call it the cathedral of cinema. I mean, it really is a picture palace. I'm not surprised that the Queen comes here. I bet she feels inspired.
Lovers love London, but